Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, both here and in cyberspace. Welcome to the fourth meeting pardon me, of the Growth and Sustainability Committee. My name is Joanne Chichok. I'm a councillor with Township of West Lincoln in Ward 2, and I will be chairing the meeting tonight. Before we start, we have an abundance of paper here this evening. Excuse me for one moment as I go through everything I have here. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Prior to commencing with the Growth and Sustainability meeting agenda, let me provide a few announcements. Comments can be made from members of the public for a matter that is on the agenda by advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section of the agenda. The public may also submit written comments for matters that are on the agenda to jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting for consideration by the committee. Comments received after 4:30 on the day of the committee meeting will be considered at the following council meeting, and comments submitted are included in the record. This meeting will be live streamed as well as recorded and available on the Township's website. Now, we have a land acknowledgement that we read at all of our meetings. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of Niagara Region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandrak, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of the region of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Now I'll go to members of committee. Are there any pecuniary interests and or conflict with regard to tonight's agenda that you wish to declare? Seeing none, we'll proceed forward to the public meetings. There's one public meeting this evening, and the public meeting is to consider a zoning bylaw amendment submitted for 5445 Vaughan Road, file number 1601-002-26, surplus farm dwelling severance. The Planning Act requires in Section 34, Sub 12 and Section 39 that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, Council must hold a public meeting for the purpose of informing the public. The purpose of the public meeting is to receive comments from the public and is an only opportunity to provide Council with feedback with respect to this application. It is a function of Council to listen to the public comments and ask questions of clarification only. It is not the function of Council to debate the merits of the application during the public meeting or respond to questions posed by the public during this public meeting. Should the public have any questions on the application, please contact planning staff and they will provide any information being requested. Please be aware that Council debate of the application will occur later this evening in this meeting, when the accompanying recommendation report regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is presented. In accordance with the Planning Act and the minister, the applicant or specified person, public body, or registered landowner of any land to which the bylaw amendment will apply who made oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to Council prior to the adoption and or passage of the bylaw may appeal the bylaw amendment to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Mr. Clerk, can you please advise of the method and dates by which the notice to the public meeting was given?
Proper notice was given by way of email circulation to agencies and mail circulation to all residents within 120 meters of the subject property on April 13th, 2026. Public notice was also posted to the subject property, the Township website, and the Township Administration Building on April 13th, 2026.
Thank you. I understand that our senior planner, Robin Shogun, will explain the purpose and reason behind the zoning bylaw amendment.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public. Tonight's public meeting is regarding a zoning bylaw amendment for the lands municipally known as 544 Vaughan Road in the Township of West Lincoln. The purpose of this application is to rezone a parcel of land created through a surplus farm dwelling severance. The severed parcel is proposed to be rezoned from the agricultural zone to a site-specific rural residential zone. The remnant parcel is proposed to be rezoned from the agricultural zone to an agricultural purposes only zone. And this zoning bylaw amendment is related to consent application B09-2025 West Lincoln. The subject lands are located on the north side of Vaughan Road and the east side of Wellenport Road. The property has a lot area of approximately 41 hectares and a lot frontage of 593 meters fronting onto Vaughan Road. The property currently contains an existing single detached dwelling and accessory building and is used for agricultural production of crops. The township's official plan designates the property as good general agriculture and natural heritage system. The township zoning bylaw zones the property agricultural, environmental protection, and environmental conservation. On January 28th, 2026, the Committee of Adjustment granted a surplus farm dwelling severance application. So this slide depicts the severed surplus farm dwelling parcel highlighted in yellow and the remnant parcel in red. As a condition of consent, a zoning bylaw amendment application is required. And here we have the site plan. The zoning bylaw amendment application seeks to rezone parcel 1 from the agricultural zone to a site-specific rural residential 259 zone to recognize the existing 139 square meter accessory building, whereas the zoning bylaw permits a maximum ground floor area in the rural residential zone of 120 square meters for accessory buildings. Parcel 2 is proposed to be rezoned from agriculture to agricultural purposes only zone and meets the requirements of the township zoning bylaw. Notice of public meeting was circulated to internal and external agencies as well as landowners within 120 meters of the subject property. No objections or concerns were received from external and internal agencies, as comments were provided during the time of the consent application. No public comments were received at this time, and this concludes the public meeting presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of council at this time to our staff? Okay, good. Pardon me. Is the applicant or their authorized agent present to speak to the application? If you feel that staff have put forward a presentation of your application in a satisfactory manner, don't feel compelled, but this is your chance to say anything that you feel was left out of their. So no one out there can hear you because we do live stream this. If you could come forward and just say what you've just said and state your name, that would be great. Thank you so very much.
I don't know what this is about, the severing, but back to farmland or whatever it is. It's always been in the last 50 years or more that we lived there. We always farmed it, so I didn't know that you could sever from farmland.
I think I'm going to get someone just to explain it a little bit because that's the application before us tonight.
Okay.
Your farmland has been severed and
Okay.
will remain farmland.
I hope so.
And will always be farmland.
Yes.
As a result of the severance. We're talking about the actual house itself and the land around the house. Can I get somebody from our planning department to just quickly redefine what we're here tonight for, because I think it would be more appropriate if you did it.
Through you, Madam Chair, so the application is to rezone the severed portion, which is the house.
Right.
If you can look
Okay.
on the slide here. And that will become, because the property in itself is zoned agricultural currently.
Okay,
The piece with the house on the 0.6 hectares will be rezoned for rural residential purposes and to maintain that house and the accessory building, whereas the remainder of the property will be zoned for agricultural purposes only, and you cannot build any other structures on that property for residential purposes.
yeah, I realize that. But I don't think that the house, you can't farm it. It's permanent, it's a permanent house. So,
Through you, Chair, to the applicant, it's not for farm purposes any longer. It's now strictly for residential purposes.
okay, thank you.
So we're redefining the piece that's your house and some buildings to only be residential, okay? And no more houses on the agricultural outside.
No, we knew that all along. I know that for
That's,
years, yeah.
just want to make sure you understood that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
so the only thing you didn't give us was your name, so that the clerk can put it in the record.
My name is Pierre Sharda, Sjaarda.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Sharda. And if you have no other comments, please feel free to go back to your seat, and thank you for coming forward.
Thank you.
I presume, and I'm sorry, I released Mr. Sharda before you had a chance to ask questions, but I presume that there were none? Thank you. The floor is now open for members of the public to come forward and provide counsel with any oral or written submissions, either in person or on Zoom, pertaining to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. When coming forward to speak, please provide your full name. Speakers will be allowed up to 5 minutes to make comments to council, after which council may ask questions of clarification relating to the submission. Individuals are allowed to speak once to each application. Is there anyone here present, or Kevin, on the internet that wishes to speak to this zoning amendment?
Not seeing anyone online, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the chamber wishing to address committee regarding this application? You do. Yeah. Seeing none, members of committee, is there anyone here wishing to ask questions or clarification from, I guess, the presenter? So we'll bring him back. Sure. Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, and I'll kind of start with staff first. I just want to clarify something. The applicant did not seem to understand what was being proposed tonight. So who is the registered agent on file? Because it just kind of came out a little confusing. They're asking clarification on their application, and it sounded like there's confusion of understanding the application. So I want to make sure as we go through this process, it's being done appropriately. So maybe if you could just speak to why that confusion may have happened.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Riley, the applicant is Mr. Jarda's daughter,
Okay.
Karen, and I believe she's not in attendance
There she
today.
is.
Oh,
She's
is
got her
she?
hand up there.
Oh,
Okay.
There she is, so maybe she can, staff have been in contact and constant communication with Karen about the understanding of the application. The parent, I believe the current owner is Mr. Jarda, and the lands will be severed and
So
purchased
if I
to
may,
Karen.
Madam Chair, can we ask the registered applicant to come forward? Is that possible?
I think that we can ask Mr. Sharda's daughter to come forward, and we have no interest in the method of which the property will be moved from one generation to the next, but hopefully you, in a very brief statement, can talk about the fact of what you did during this to help your father.
Okay, Karen Youngblood. So when the questions were asked, I did raise my hand just to say that we were present, and then he can't hear out of this ear, and so he came up here and just was trying to explain, I guess, that he's farmed this land for 50 years, and now we're severing off the accessory dwelling. So he is clear, he does understand it. Is that what I'm supposed to say, or?
That's what the question that the counselor
Yeah,
was
he
asking.
is-
So just looking for the clarity, and it's reassuring knowing the family's here and that
Yeah.
everybody, at least somebody in the family understands
Yeah.
how this process is working out.
Yes.
Because without that information, it looked like, no disrespect, but just looked
Yeah.
like he was learning for the first time, and that's concerning, but in hearing that, I have
We
confidence in
couldn't,
it.
maybe we shouldn't have sat so far back. He could not hear what was being discussed up here, so that's, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll remember this application forever because people rarely tell me I'm quiet, so thank you very much. So, thank you, you've added the clarity. Other questions? Counselor Rayner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Robin. I believe the surplus farm dwelling severance can only be done if the individual purchasing it is a bona fide farmer. Is that not correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Rayner, the property owner is to be a bona fide farmer.
The property owner, present property owner,
Correct.
then why would the present property owner want to sever his own property if he's going to stay on the property? I'm confused.
I believe, Counselor Rayner, that it is not Mr. Sharda that is staying on the property. Correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, correct.
It is the severance of the farmland that is going to probably be sold off because there'll be no more farming, and the residual is not going to be the residence of Mr. Sharda in the future.
Yeah, through the chair to Robin. I thought surplus farm dwellings applications can only be brought forward if there was a request from a bona fide farmer to purchase that farm, but does not need the dwellings on the farm. Therefore, the dwellings are a surplus farm dwelling. Therefore, they get severed off. The farmer that wants to buy it keeps that, and the other person keeps the house.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Rayner, it's my understanding that the Jardas will still continue to farm that land. They are bona fide farmers, and that they will continue to farm that land, but they are severing off that portion of the dwelling unit.
So they don't want to live there anymore.
I believe they own property elsewhere in the municipality.
Oh, well then, so they just sell the one acre. Oh, okay, now I understand it. That's kind of the reverse way of doing it. I understand. Thank you. No more questions, Madam Chair.
Since we've heard from the applicant, and we've concluded the questions of committee, I'll ask one more time if committee has any further or final questions of clarification only to administration or written submissions on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. And seeing none, please be advised that the recommendation report will be brought forward later in this this meeting, whereby council will debate the merits of the application and decide upon its recommendation. Also be advised, if you wish to be further notified of this application, please sign the sheet at the side table near the council chambers door. This meeting concludes at the hour of 6:50. Pardon me. Okay, we are concluded with the public meetings for this evening, so the next item of business is 5, change in order of items on the agenda. Seeing none, we will proceed with appointments of which there are none, and the requests to address items on the agenda. Seeing none. Oh, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I should read this. I apologize. Not seeing any, I did not. This section of the agenda, section 10.135 and 6, the general rules, 1 hour in total shall be allocated for this section of the agenda, and each individual person shall only be provided with 5 minutes to address their issue. Some exceptions can apply. A response may not be provided, and the matter may be referred to staff. A person who wishes to discuss a planning application or a matter that can be appealed will be permitted to speak for 10 minutes. Okay, so, Mr. Mustashi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I promise not to take 1 hour.
I'm so glad to hear that, because you're either getting 5 or 10 minutes, and I
Yeah.
was going to adjudicate that based
Okay.
on your first sentence.
Yes, thank you. So just as far as introduction, my name is Reno Mostacci, and I'm here in support of the Lockbridge subdivision application, which is on your agenda. And Madam Chair, Mayor Ganan, and members of council, we'd like to thank you for your role in the process in terms of making a decision tonight on the application. On behalf of Don Manson, who is here, the consulting team, and myself, we'd like to express our appreciation to Council for its ongoing support of development initiatives associated with OPA 63, particularly during these challenging times for the development industry. The Lockbridge application actually represents the first subdivision approval within the OPA 63 area, and it reinforces the vision set out by Council through that planning process. We'd like to thank staff for their diligent and thoughtful work on implementing the OPA 63 vision, and we'd also like to thank staff for their effort to bring the Lockbridge block plan and subdivision application forward to Council this evening for approval. The staff reports associated with both the block plan and the draft plan are very comprehensive, and we are in full support and agreement with their respective recommendations. We hope that Council sees it fit to support and approve the staff recommendations as presented this evening. The consulting team and I, represented by Jaren Marcus from Arcadis Planning and Jennifer Vida, are here to respond to any technical questions or comments you may have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mustache. Are there any other members or members of the public here this evening wishing to address items on the council agenda? Seeing none, I will now move on to communications, of which there are none. So we're on to, I'm just cruising right through this. There you go. We'll move on to staff reports. Item GS 19-26. Again, Ms. Shugan, you are up. Recommendation report PD 15, 2006 zoning bylaw amendment for 5445 Vaughan Road, file number 1601-002-26. The recommendations to that report are that recommendation report PD 15-2026 titled Recommendation Report Zoning Bylaw Amendment for 5445 Vaughan Road, file number 1601-002-26 dated May 4th, 2025 be received, and that the application for the zoning bylaw amendment file 1601-002-26 to rezone parcel 1 from agricultural A zone to site-specific rural residential zone and parcel 2 from agricultural A zone to agricultural purposes only APO zone contained in Schedule B be approved in accordance with the attached amending zoning bylaw and schedule, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the necessary bylaws. I need a mover and a seconder for those. Councillor Bradrick, Mayor Ganan. Questions? I see none. So, Mr. Clerk, seeing no questions and with a motion duly put, please bring forward the, pardon me, the vote. Has it come up everywhere? Great. That motion carries. Item GS 21-26. No, I'm sorry, that was GS 20-26. I was reading the, Director of Growth and Sustainability, Mr. Burma, and the Chief Building Official, Ben Agro, bring this forward. And the recommendation is that recommendation report BLDG-02-2026 titled Site Alteration Application 2814 Caister Center Road, Concession 9, Part Lot 30, West Lincoln, file number 3000-003-26, dated May 4th, 2026, be received, and that the site alteration application 3000-003-26, for 2814 Caister Center Road be denied at this time. I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Councillor Trombetta. Councillor Riley, putting the motion on the table for discussion and furtherance. Is there any comments wishing to be made regarding GS 20-26? Seeing none, I will call the question. You better catch it. The vote's coming up. It's a little late. The vote is commenced, and I'm seeing no question. So please make your vote choice now, members of committee. For what?
Hold on.
That vote carries. Now, item GS 2021-26. Recommendation report PD 12-2026, Block Plan Area 9, Stage 3A, file number 4000-01-24. That recommendation report PD 12-2026, titled Recommendation Report, Block Plan Area Stage 3A, file number 4000-01-24, dated April 13th, 2026, be received, and that that council approve a portion of the Block Plan Area 9 being the Stage 3A area encompassing the Lockbridge Draft Plan of Subdivision Application lands shown in Schedule A and Schedule B to this report. I need Councillor Riley. I need a seconder, Madam Mayor. And I do believe that there were comments coming from the staff before we entertained questions or discussion from staff. From council.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only further comments we have to the report, just to summarize what we provided in the report, which is a recommendation to support the block plan approval, specifically for the area of the Lockbridge Draft Plan of Subdivision, as there are still some remaining issues that need to be cleared up, minor issues for the remainder of the block plan. So that is what our report is recommending. As you recall, back when these lands were added to the urban boundary in 2022 through Official Plan Amendment 62 and 63, there was a block planning process put in place to ensure that development happens in a logical and comprehensive way, taking into consideration abutting landowners. And this will be the first block plan, or this is the first block plan that has come forward, submitted by Lockbridge, but also a number of participating landowners in the area as well have signed on, and staff have provided this recommendation to support just this area, and we've included draft plan conditions in a later report, in the Lockbridge report, to ensure that the block plan is completed once those outstanding issues are resolved. At this time, we're only focused on the 3A area, we're calling it, because that's an area that can be serviced, mostly using existing services. The remainder of the block has to wait for much more substantial services, which is more length of time out. We're talking years out. So there's not as much of a interest in needing that all resolved tonight. It's more focused on just Stage 3A, where the development could proceed utilizing mainly existing services and some upgrades.
Thank you, Mr. Borman. Are there questions from members of committee? Mayor Ganan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't really have a question, but I do have more of a comment. The last term of council, when we were putting together OPA 62 and 63, we spent a lot of time talking about the block plans and hoping that we wouldn't end up with piecemeal development all the way around the town without any cohesiveness and any putting it together. Additional time, of course, was spent on OPA 63, looking at what those inside portions would eventually look like. So the first time this application came forward, I was a wee bit concerned because it was a little bit of a standalone, which was something that we were hoping not to see. So I do want to say that I was pleased to see that this time Alma Acres and the new part, I don't think it's going to be called Alma Acres the same way as the existing properties. But at least now that also seems to be in line, and I understand that's a way out, but I think the intent to make that more harmonious is certainly something that I'm happier to see than when the first application came through on its own. Thank you.
Are there other comments or questions? Oh, you don't want to say. Okay. I guess from my perspective, I am pleased to see the amount of work that has gone into an application such as this that has resolved so many things that are questionable in an ever-changing environment that we are in. But I do have to say that the block plan that I saw previously had a number of things in it that were there that I really wanted to see happen before we went further, much further. And I know that our staff and the consultants have all tried very valiantly to accommodate that, but that the park that was there in the first phase, and I guess I'm being consistent with every comment I've made since I saw this and its return, has changed. The park acceptance and rules in that time have changed as well, and we're being confined to the 5% under the Planning Act, but the idea of moving a park into the second or third phase of this is troubling to me, because as time goes on and the housing styles offer for more compaction, there will be fewer places for growing families to go to recreate as lot sizes reduce, and playing football or basketball on your own lot might just not be able to be accommodated. So I say that those changes cause us to stop and pause on what it is that we are being required to look at. I do ask Mr. Boerma one question or to his staff with regard to the draft conditions from West Lincoln. Are they complete now, or are they in a draft?
So the block plan report that we have in front of us, there are no conditions that are tied to this approval. The conditions of draft plan approval are going to be tied to another report on the agenda, which comes a little bit later, GS 2426, and we can speak about those now, or we can speak about those under that report if you like.
Point of order, Madam Chair. I would ask that those be spoken at the appropriate time. Right now, we need to stay on topic with this one.
I was just going to say that, Mr. Riley. It needn't have been brought forward. So that we can discuss later. That was what I wanted you to say, and I expected you to say. So staying on point with this one and seeing no other comments wanting to be made, I'll call the question. That motion carries. Item GS 22-26. This is a recommendation report. Update on provincial legislation amendments, Bill 98, Building Homes and Improving Transportation Infrastructure Act. The recommendations on this report are that Recommendation Report PD 16-2026, titled Recommendation Report Update on Provincial Legislation Amendments Bill 98, Building Homes and Improving Transportation Infrastructure Act, dated May 4th, be received, and that the administration provide comments back to the province on the proposed changes to the site plan approval. I need a mover and a seconder for us to be able to discuss this. Councillor Bradrick. We're really shy on Mayor Ganan. Those motions put the item on the table for discussion, and as it indicates, this is our opportunity to provide feedback to the province on the proposed changes to site plan approval. Are there any comments from members of committee? Mr. Bourma, did you want to extend a comment or two? Your report is very thorough. It is perhaps not even necessary for you to speak.
Through the chair, Robin, our senior planner, did have a few summary comments she could make regarding the report.
Great.
If you would like.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll leave the word brief up to your discretion on my summary of the
Well,
report.
if you take more than an hour, I think you're going to be out of order.
Okay, so on March 30th, the province introduced a new bill, Bill 98, Building Homes and Improving Transportation and Infrastructure Act, and the legislation proposes changes to several acts, including the Planning Act, Municipal Act, Development Charges Act, and the Building Code Act. The purpose of Bill 98 is to support the housing development, streamline approvals, and reduce costs. And the province is seeking feedback through multiple environmental registry postings and has provided a commenting period until May 14th, 2026. So some of the key changes to the Planning Act include prohibiting enhanced development standards as a condition of land division approval. So municipalities may no longer require certain enhanced development or sustainability standards as a condition of land division approval. So that includes trees, landscaping, paving materials, bike parking, EV parking standards, and that requirements be limited to health and safety, accessibility, and protection of adjoining lands. Reform to site plan control. So proposed major changes include potential removal of site plan control as a planning tool, limit to 3 circulation rounds, standardization checklist for applications, acceptance of studies prepared by qualified professionals, and may introduce new processes such as review panels or arbitration panels. So also a reduction in the minimum residential lot sizes. So the changes propose a minimum lot size of 175 square meters on urban residential lands within settlement areas and that are fully serviced by municipal water and sanitary outside of the Greenbelt area. Standard parkland requirements, modifications will establish criteria for the acceptance of parkland, including lands with encumbrances and privately owned public access spaces. New rules for what qualifies as parkland, ability for developers to appeal municipal refusals, and will establish criteria for usability and suitability. Streamlining information and material that planning authorities can require as part of a complete application. The regulation proposes to create 2 categories for studies, core studies and contingent studies. Core studies are fundamental studies that will always be required, and contingent studies would be required when considered relevant to a site or specific application on a site-specific basis that exists within the municipality. This proposal potentially limits municipalities' ability to request additional studies. Another change would be proposing changes to various regulations for specified additional prescribed persons, professionals for complete applications. It expands the list for professionals, including landscape architects, and municipalities must accept their reports at the application stage. Standardize official plans, which this commenting period is closed. So the province is moving towards standardizing official plans for municipalities across Ontario. This includes a set list of 12 land use designations, 12 standard chapters with standardized subsections and schedules. And then there are proposed changes to the Municipal Act, Wastewater and Public Corporations Act, Safe Drinking Water, and Development Charges Act. So changes to the communal drinking water and wastewater system for municipal consent requirements, introduces a framework for municipal consent for private communal systems, sets criteria for approval, including service requirements, financial assurances, and operational standards. Changes to wastewater and changes to the Water and Wastewater Public Corporations Act will prohibit private ownership of any new water and wastewater public corporation to maintain 100% public sector ownership. And there's exemptions to the nonprofit retirement homes from development charges. So the exemption of nonprofit retirement homes for development charges, this is to align the treatment of nonprofit retirement homes with existing exemptions for other forms of nonprofit housings. So staff will continue to monitor the changes of Bill 98 and provide formal comments to the province regarding changes specifically for site plan control, parkland dedication, and minimum lot size.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to the committee, what did you say the period for public comment, when is it completed?
Through you, Madam Chair, May 14th.
Thank you. Members of committee, are there any comments or questions? Seeing none? Call the question, Mr. Clerk. Okay, that motion carries. Okay. Report number GS 23-26, a recommendation report for the support letter for the ECA amendment to Modern Sheldrick Properties 2738 Thompson Road. The recommendations are that the recommendation report PD 18-2026 titled Support Letter for ECA Amendment for Modern Sheldrake 2738 Thompson Road dated May 4th, 2026 be received, and that Council authorize administration to provide a letter of municipal support to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks, provided the Township receives confirmation that the amendment does not pose any additional limitations, constraints, or negative impacts on nearby sensitive land uses, and that the soils only be permitted within the building. I need a mover and a seconder. Mayor Ganan, Councillor Maychuk, comments, concerns, questions? Is there a hockey game tonight? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the question. That motion carries. Okay, report number GS 24-26. This is the report with regard to Lockridge Development Zoning Bylaw Amendment application and draft plan of subdivision approval. The recommendations are that the recommendation report PD 14-2026 titled Recommendation Report Lockridge Development Zoning Bylaw Amendment, file number 1601-008-24, and draft plan of subdivision file number 2000-93-24 dated April 13th, 2026 be received, and that the application for zoning bylaw amendment file number 1601-008-24 and the bylaw and schedule be approved as found in Schedule B, and that the application for draft plan of subdivision approval file number 2000-093-24 be approved in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13 and regulations thereunder, subject to the draft plan approval conditions contained in Schedule C, and that the applicant is advised that the Township's draft approval of this plan of subdivision will lapse 3 years from the date of its approval unless the Township Council grants an extension of the approval period prior to the lapsing date. If an extension is required, an updated review will occur and revisions to the conditions of draft plan approval may be necessary at that time. Those being the recommendations, a mover, Councillor Riley, Councillor Trombetta. Comments from members of committee? Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few concerns. One was brought to the attention of council a couple months ago when the staff sergeant came here, and he had a lot of statistics about policing in the Niagara Peninsula. And he made a statement that increased growth brings with it increased crime, which brings increased policing, which is an angle I did not think of before. I was concerned about congestion and traffic. We only have a single Highway 20 to Hamilton. Most people that live in this area work there. You could see the high volumes of traffic in the morning and the afternoon on Highway 20. It's only a single road.
Councillor, we need to get to the question, and we need to have it relevant to the Lockbridge.
Okay, well, the relevance is I am concerned about the increased traffic and the fact that we potentially could be increasing the crime rate in the town, and I don't want to see my town go in that direction. Thank you.
I understand, and on that comment, I know that traffic was a great consideration for the subdivision, the owners, and for the town staff, who put an incredible amount of effort into it to address transportation, of which many changes will happen over the next 25 years until the subdivision, until this whole area is developed. So, having heard those comments and no question,
One more question.
Is it a question or a comment?
It's a question to you, Madam Chair. You said this is going to take 25 years?
The entirety of our growth is going to be 25 years in making. This is a part of it.
This is a very small process and a long process to complete. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. The planning that started behind this on the official plan amendments that built this and put this land into the urban area is to go to 2051. And since this is 2026, that's 25 years.
So at this point, we're not in mass development?
This is the
Projected for the
first
next 5 years.
subdivision. This is the first subdivision coming forward. It's based on the limited capacity. I should be giving this to staff, but based on the limited capacity of the services
Of the
available at
infrastructure
this
we have.
time, there is the additional growth in this area will be subject to additional investment in infrastructure. So at this point in time, this is limited to Area 3A. That doesn't mean anything about
What we have the capability right now of handling, is that correct?
I feel that I should ask the staff, because I say from what I've read that this is the limited capacity for that area. Engineers might say pipes are elastic and we put two or three more houses on. But at this point in time, this is what we have in this area at this time that's supported by the reports that are part of the subdivision.
Thank you.
Okay? Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess not so much to the council, but I understand what the council's concern is. I think the unfortunate reality is, like, if the idea is that we're afraid of the future because any kind of growth is going to contribute to crime, we're going to see a very expensive future. I think what's being proposed right now is a very small piece of growth in our community. Our community has not seen a whole lot of growth in the last probably 6 years. We've had a few small pieces here and there, and yes, Madam Chair, you're right. Probably, hopefully, sometime, not so much a hopefully, but real likely, by 2051, probably closer to 2060, we'll probably see those numbers realized of what is being projected by the region and the province. I think what's being proposed right now is a responsible and reasonable ask at this time. I don't think it's going to contribute to mass crime, as the council may be concerned about. I think it's, for a community that hasn't really seen a whole lot of growth, this I think brings a little bit of positiveness. But I do understand there's people in the public that any kind of growth sometimes spooks them. They're not sure what that's going to look like and how that's going to impact their daily lives. And then speaking to the recommendation report, through you, Madam Chair, to staff, maybe we could speak just a little bit more about some of the consultation that happened with the community group regarding, I know the elm tree during the public meeting was a topic of conversation. From what I read and understand, it seems like some incredible compromisation's been met. It looks like there's been access provided to grab some of the seedlings that can be repurposed and replanted. It looks like there's going to be a lot of restoration contributed as a result of that removal. So if maybe staff could just speak to the
Councillor,
position of that.
I take your comments and we'll refer it to staff, yes, as I had to ask Councillor Rayner if there was a question in his. We'll just give it to staff to give us the appropriate changes that we are seeing with regard to those referred to by Councillor Riley.
Through the chair to Councillor Riley, yes, the Lockbridge team and the Township met with the West Lincoln Green team, not to be confused with the green team that staff once had here at the Township that also did green endeavors. We met with them, and Lockbridge and the West Lincoln Green team collaborated on and came to some agreements regarding access to the property, access to the multiple elm trees that are on that property, the collection of seeds. Lockbridge Group agreed to a condition in their draft plan of subdivision to solidify that allowance for them to go on the property and collect seeds. There might be further work that's being done outside of the township involvement, which we've encouraged them to work on. We know that if the green team's successful, there'll be opportunities also for the township to take advantage of some of these tree saplings and plant it on township-owned lands, boulevards or parks, even in this area. So I think a lot of good things have come out of those meetings, and all the parties were very collaborative with that.
If I may follow up, Madam Chair? Through you back to our director. So one of the other things, I don't recall seeing the report here. Now, it is a very meaty report, so it's quite possibly I missed it. I know there was some questions or more requests by at least a couple of residents in that area, and maybe this comes at the design phase, I don't know. I know we're not quite there, but was any concessions made around, was it the backyard fencing? I know there were some requests about what could be achieved in terms of what the developer could provide for those residents who would be kind of like embracing that change. Was there any conversation around that, and did I miss that in the report?
Through the chair to Councillor Riley, most of the existing properties that are actually backing onto this development will either be backing onto a storm pond or public lands. So I think there's very little, if not no, new development, like new houses that are actually backing onto existing houses, which I think will assist with a lot of that. And typically, those fencing details are worked out through the engineering submission. We do have those comments. We do have conditions around fencing in our draft conditions. So that would be the best time to address that through the engineering submissions that would come following draft plan approval.
Okay, I'll save that question for that time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So, to Councillor's question, when would draft plan approval be coming forward?
To the chair, draft plan approval is tied with this zoning bylaw approval this evening, and it's before committee and council tonight.
So the engineering reports will come?
In our typical process, one of the conditions of draft plan approval is engineering submission. Since it doesn't make a lot of sense to have detailed design done for a subdivision if you don't even know if you're going to have it approved. They do some preliminary design, which we review. We look at services. We look at the layouts. But the detailed design work would always come after draft plan approval. So this is the way that it's typically done in order to make the most efficient use of their resources and not designing something that could be altered.
Thank you. Councillor Maychuk.
Through the chair to the director, it's probably too premature, and it'll probably come out in the detailed design, but can you describe it this time, or at least predict what the size and scope may be of this development, or is it way too early?
If I can, through the chair, just ask a little bit more about what you're asking for, the size and scope.
Well, the other counselor referred to the fact that he was concerned about the growth. So I'm just trying to get an idea of this one parcel of land that we referred to, I think it was 3A, what would be the anticipated growth in terms of number of homes or units or development? Or is it too early to say?
Through the chair to Councillor Maychuk, yes, there's 222 units being proposed, most of which are single detached dwellings. Our typical ratio is around 3 people per single detached dwelling. I'm very bad at math, so I'll let someone else do that.
666.
Oh, that's not a good number.
Did you want to try something else?
Sure, we can put some ADUs in there, but that's the typical, yeah. And our population is projected, as the chair was saying earlier in this meeting, over the next 30 years, we're projecting to go to around 38,000, or just over 38,000, and right now we're about 16,000 for the whole township. So when these plans were put in place and worked on starting in 2015, like not the subdivision, but the policy work to bring lands in, council was always adamant that it would be a steady pace of growth. They didn't want to be like other communities that were surrounding us at the time that had explosive growth. So progressive growth over the next 20 to 30 years is what council was interested in. So.
Okay. Questions, other questions, concerns, comments? Okay, having seen none, the item before you has its motions duly put. Please bring the vote, Mr. Clerk. That motion carries. That concludes our staff reports for this evening, and I'll move on to item 10, other business, which is members of committee. Is there other business matters of an informative nature? Seeing none. Item 11 is new business. This is only for items that require immediate attention, direction, and must first approve a motion to introduce a new item of business. Seeing none. There are no confidential matters. So we move now to adjournment.
Good, thank you. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to this West Lincoln Township Special Council meeting. This is meeting number 5 on our agenda. Today is Monday, May 4th, and we are about to start our meeting with the land acknowledgement statement. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of Niagara Region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Members of Council, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest this evening? Okay. So the purpose of this meeting, of course, is to confirm the work that was done beforehand, and so we have in front of you the bylaws. We need someone to move the bylaws, please. Councillor Riley, and someone to second. Councillor Broderick. So number 1, that leave be granted to introduce bylaws 2026-23, 2026-24, and that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and are hereby adopted. And 2, that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw 3.1 is a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 2017-70 as amended of the Township of West Lincoln. And 3.2 is bylaw 2026-24, a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by council resolution. So I'm just going to call, no questions about those, I think. So Mr. Clerk, when you're ready. So the vote should be in front of you. And that resolution, come up, you okay? Yeah, that resolution carries. Thought there was a problem there for a minute. And so very quickly, we're able to adjourn this meeting at the hour of 7:37. Thank you.
Welcome. I'm Councilor William Riley. I'll be the chair of tonight's Infrastructure Committee meeting. I will mention that comments can be made from members of the public for a matter that is on the agenda by advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section of this agenda. The public may submit written comments for matters that are on the agenda to jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting for consideration by the committee. Comments received after 4:30 p.m. on the day of the committee meeting will be considered at the following council meeting. Comments submitted are included in the record. This meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded and available on the Township website. Our land acknowledgement statement that the Township of West Lincoln, being part of Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. I'm going to look around the horseshoe here to see if there's any changes in orders of item on the agenda. There's not. We actually have more than one item tonight, so that's always exciting. Go look around to see if there's any disclosure, pecuniary, or conflict of interest. There is not. We have no appointments. I'll look real quick, ask real quick if there's anyone interested in addressing an item on the agenda in the gallery here. Not seeing any. How are we doing online here? No one online? All right, we're motoring. I will mention, I think Councilor Chichuk there managed to do one of our fastest planning meetings with a public meeting I think we've ever had to date. He managed to do it under an hour, so I'm going to see if I can match that. All right, so that brings us to communications. The item we have before us is item 7.1, IC11-26, and it is, hold on, sorry, let me bring, why is it not coming up here? Okay. That the memo regarding Niagara Region or Report PW 10-2026, extension of the Niagara Regional Courts Intermunicipal Agreement Amendment 3 be received. And that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the amending agreement, Amendment 3, to the Niagara Region Courts Intermunicipal Agreement to continue the red light camera RLC program. So at this point, I'm going to hold on the mover and seconder. That's just what's going to be coming. We have someone who's going to speak to this, and then we'll go from there. We'll put it on the floor. Actually, you know what? Maybe we should just put it on the floor, so if there's any questions, we can deal with that. So I'll ask for a mover and seconder, Councillor Braddock and Councillor Chichuk. All right, so at this point, we have Scott Fraser, Associate Director from Transportation Planning, are going to come forward. And Scott, if you just confirm you are who you are.
Got it.
We're good to go. Yep. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair, Mayor, Councilors, and staff for having me here tonight. As mentioned, I'm Scott Fraser, the Associate Director of Transportation Planning with the region. Here before you tonight to talk about the Niagara Region Intermunicipal Courts Agreement and the request of this council to consent to an extension of that agreement for 3 more years. The purpose of that extension will allow us to continue at the region to operate the red light camera program in the same manner that has been operating to this time. So no changes to the terms and conditions, the same financial arrangements that have underpinned the agreement since it first came into force in 2022 are proposed to carry forward. So the reason why we're here tonight is that because the tickets that are issued by the red light camera program proceed through the Niagara courts system, and that is ultimately a joint venture between Niagara Region and all 12 local municipalities. So anything that touches on that courts agreement requires unanimous consent of all 13 councils in order to move forward. So while this is a straightforward 3-year extension of the existing program, it is an opportunity to come here, answer any questions that you have about how the program operates, and ultimately seek your approval to keep that agreement in place.
Thank you, Scott. I'm going to start from my right and go to Councillor Rayner. He had his hand up first.
Yes, you mentioned you would say how it works, so for the people who are listening out there and There's a few in cyberspace. Kevin just hasn't found them yet, but I'm sure they're looking. If you'd like to go through it for the benefit of the people that are watching this, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question through the chair. So Niagara Region's red light camera program operates at 10 signalized intersections across Niagara Region. It launched in March of 2024. And those intersections were selected based on the types of collisions that we see at those intersections. Red light cameras work by discouraging people from running those red lights. And so what we're really targeting there are head-on and T-bone collisions at those intersections. So those intersections were targeted because those were the highest locations for those types of collisions at regional signalized intersections. The system itself, you've probably seen them at the side of the road, but at the approach to an intersection, you'll see a camera that takes 2 images of the vehicle as it approaches the red light. So one as the vehicle is approaching the light, and a second one if they've gone through a red light. It then captures a second image of the vehicle actually, having run the red light. Those 2 static images are sent to a processing center in Toronto, where a provincial offense officer reviews the images, confirms that the camera was in good working order, that the appropriate bylaws are in place, and that there's enough evidence to substantiate that a charge is ultimately warranted or has taken place. So once that takes place, then that comes back to Niagara courts for that process to play out, either then for the resident to pay the fine or to challenge the ticket through the court system.
Okay, if you may do a follow-up, yep.
Please. Couple questions. The owner is the one that's charged of the vehicle, right? Because they do not know the driver. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, that's correct. So it's an owner-based charge. So it goes to the owner of the vehicle, as you say, because you can't, with the camera image, determine who is behind the wheel of the vehicle at the time.
So you just hope it's not a stolen vehicle, because then they'd get a lot of red lights, you get a lot of tickets.
So through the chair, ultimately, that's then what the court system is for. So if
Yeah,
that
I
were ever
understand.
to
I'm only
take place, I would expect that in your chance to meet with a prosecutor, if you can prove you'd filed a police report and the vehicle was stolen, I can't see how that would stand.
I know, I understand. I was just kidding you.
Yeah.
My last question, Mr. Chair. I've always wanted to know this. On a red light camera, when is the camera activated? Like if you're coming up to a light, there's many times you're within 50 feet of the light and say, oh, the light's changing. You could slam on the brakes and lock the wheels and you'll be stopped in the middle of the intersection. That is not what it's all about, because the Highway Traffic Act said you're allowed to proceed through a yellow with caution. So the question is, what activates it? Do you have to cross the initial line when it's red? Or if you're in the process of going through and it turns red halfway through the intersection, when does it actually activate it?
Yeah, so thank you, and through the chair. So the cameras enforce the Highway Traffic Act, and as we all learned in driving school, a red light takes effect when it actually turns red. So the stop bar and the red light is what makes that determination. So if you've entered into the intersection and have passed the stop bar and it goes red while you are in the intersection, you are making a legal move through that intersection.
And it's a stop bar that counts.
Correct. So in order to get a red light camera, the ticket, the signal itself must be red before you even cross the stop bar into the intersection. And so we've all seen drivers who chance it a little bit and run pretty late. Most of those are still not resulting in tickets. You have to have been outside of the intersection before it goes red and then enter into the intersection.
Thank you. That was important clarification. I've always wondered for years how that worked. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Councillor. Any other members of council? Not seeing any. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Chichak.
I thought you were going around the table.
Yeah, well, we can.
Sorry, I just would like you to clarify, because when I read this report at home, I happened to say something out loud, and so they all said, the red light cameras are coming back, not the speed cameras. Not that anybody should be worried about that if they're grading the right speeds, but these are the red light cameras for running red lights at various intersections, right?
So through the chair, yes, that is correct. So as you probably read in the papers over the fall, the province did away with the speed cameras. So obviously the regions followed that direction. So this is pertaining to the red light cameras at intersections only.
Somehow it became confusing, so we'll make it real clear for, thanks.
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I wasn't going to speak at all, but just to confirm, because that question came up. So Regional Road 624 and Regional Road 20,
Correct.
that's the only place in our area. that has a red light camera, I presume.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's an important part for us, though, because that 65 that continues on from there as an extension of Highway 20 is a very large area for speeding in our area, so thank you.
Perfect. Councillor Chibetta? Nothing. Councillor Braddock? Nothing. Councillor Maycheck?
Real quick, I was always curious, how often, I know it's reduced the number of accidents, so that's good for public safety, but how often do they review those statistics in terms of the amount of accidents that still occur?
So thank you through the chair. So the report that we shared, this was our first report back on the collisions that we saw over the first full year of operation. So this covered the time span from when the cameras launched in March of 2024 up until around March of 2025. That's what we had the data available to share. We'll be coming back to Regional Council approximately on an annual basis to share updates.
Perfect. All right. That's it. Is it relevant? Well, no, sometimes you like to take us into left field, so I just want to make sure we're going to stay on topic. Okay, you can ask your question.
Thank you. One other question. How often, are there 10 cameras, you said, in total in the region?
So through the chair, yes, that's correct, at 10 signalized intersections.
And how often are they rotated, and are they rotated evenly? Like, we have 12 municipalities, so there's always 2 without, or there's one that's got 4 or 5, and there's 5 or 6 municipalities without?
So the way that the red light cameras, they stay in place at full time at those intersections. It was the automated speed enforcement cameras, the speed cameras, that rotated. So the red light camera, once installed, is there permanently.
Oh, it's there permanently?
Yes.
Because that's the area that had the highest accident?
Correct.
Thank you.
They were the areas that were, okay, perfect. Bring the vote forward. And that carries unanimously. So thank you, Mr. Fraser. Appreciate you taking the time to come out to West Lincoln, and all the best success to you in the future. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so that moves us on to staff reports. We have item ICU 1226, that recommendation report I-10 2026 titled Winter Operations Summary Report dated May 4th, 2026 be received. And that administration develop a snow fence program for consideration in the 2027 budget, and that council approve an amending bylaw such as the one attached as Schedule B to authorize the Director of Infrastructure to declare and terminate significant weather events. If I can get a mover and seconder. I got Councillor Trombetta and Councillor Braddock, and I will go to our Director for his presentation. And everybody should have a little booklet in front of them if they can't see on the screen.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to present a brief presentation just to kind of capture what's in the report. This is the first time where we actually reported back on our winter operations and provided council with a summary. So through discussions this winter, Trey Benish, our Manager of Operations, and myself thought it would be a good idea to go through this. So here we go. Basically, the report talks about 4 key things. The first thing is just some metrics that we started capturing this year, and comparing them to metrics in previous years. And then we'll talk about some operational challenges that we have experienced this year. And we also are but there are some proposed solutions that we will be administering internally to deal with those challenges. And then the third thing, we're going to talk about declaring significant weather events under the minimum maintenance standards and what that means. And then the last topic is just a financial summary and implications of what we're talking about this evening and what was presented in the report. So we'll start with some key metrics. We've been keeping track of the metrics along the left column there, which is basically your total winter events, total snowfall, total rainfall, number of full plow deployments, salt usage, and sand usage. So in the 2025-2026 calendar winter season, we had 51 events compared to 43 and 30 in the previous two years. For snowfall, we had 140 centimeters of snowfall this past winter season, compared to 126 and 61 centimeters the past couple of years. For rainfall, we had 269 millimeters of rain compared to 198 and 329 in previous years. We keep track of rainfall over the winter events because there's always a risk that that might freeze, turn into freezing conditions, which requires a deployment of our equipment to deal with that. We deployed our entire fleet 12 times in the 2025-2026 season. Unfortunately, we didn't keep track of that previous years, so we'll start doing that moving forward. And for salt usage, we used 1,100 tons this season compared to 1,090 and 404 tons the previous 2 years. And for sand, we used 6,200 tons compared to just over 6,100 and just over 2,600 the past 2 winter seasons. So those are some key metrics that we're presenting this evening. Now we'll talk about operational challenges. There's 4 things we touched upon in the report. The first thing being blowing and drifting snow. The second challenge was just staffing and providing coverage. The third challenge was material supply. There was a salt shortage this past winter season throughout Ontario. And the fourth item that is a challenge for us, and it's a challenge almost every year, is basically the gravel road conditions during the spring thaw. So we'll start with drifting snow. A significant challenge every winter season is blowing and drifting snow. It results in increased plowing frequency and extended response times. These conditions can reduce visibility, create hazardous driving conditions, and it requires repeated mobilization of staff and equipment whenever we have blowing snow events. The proposed solution is administration is going to review the implementation of a snow fence program. We haven't had a snow fence program in a number of years. So as part of our 2027 budget process, we will present a snow fence program and present that as part of our budget process so that we can see what the financial impacts are for council's consideration. Second challenge is staffing and coverage. Maintaining adequate staffing levels during peak periods is key to meeting our level of service. We found that December was identified as a potential challenge for us. There's a lot of competing demands in December. There's different types of operational activities that take place in December. So there are some competing demands. There's some holiday schedules that we have to deal with and just workforce availability. So the proposed solution for that is we're already starting to look at it, is just to look at improving and make refinements to the overtime bank and call-in process so that we're trying to make refinements to that policy and process so that we can ensure consistent and reliable winter operation and coverage. So that is something that we are working on, and we'll implement that for the next winter season, starting in December of 2026. The third thing was material supply and salt shortage. Availability of road salt was a potential operational risk, is always a potential operational risk, particularly during periods of high demand and regional supply constraints. We experienced that this season. A lot of municipalities throughout Ontario experienced that this season. And just to educate everyone, in our urban areas, we use straight salt. We use straight salt to achieve rapid melting and maintain bare pavement conditions in the higher traffic areas of our urban center. And in the rural area, we use a sand-salt mixture. It's basically a 5-to-1 ratio. And that's applied to improve traction on lower volume roads while reducing overall salt usage and mitigating any environmental impacts to the agricultural community. So our proposed solution, if we ever do experience a salt shortage in the future, is just to be flexible with our material application and the use of it. So if we ever do experience another salt shortage, we may have to transition to using that sand-salt mixture within the urban area whenever salt supply is low. in order to extend that salt inventory. So that's our proposed solution if we ever come across that again in the next winter season. Spring thaw, gravel roads. So I think it's important to understand that as frost exits the grounds, as frost exits the ground, there's increased moisture levels, and it results in the roads becoming saturated. And when the roads become saturated, the pavement structure weakens, and the granular pavement structure is just very poor. And whenever that happens, undertaking our grading operations, our standard grading operations, it's significantly less effective. Our equipment is unable to properly reshape and compact those road surfaces when they're saturated. So whatever work we do on saturated gravel roads, a lot of times it's little improvement, and actually it would cause further disturbance to the roadway when it's saturated and you're trying to get equipment on it. So we focus on mitigating road deterioration during that spring thaw, and how we do that is we just try to add granular to fill any potholes in order to make the roadway drivable. But we do have to limit our grading wherever feasible to address really severe surface issues. While these measures help, they are not considered a long-term or efficient solution. So proper grading and compaction can only really be achieved once the road base has significantly dried out. So there is a period in the spring where 2-3 weeks, it's a challenge for us to really work our roads properly. So the solution for that, well, we just have to continue to prioritize. We have to monitor our road conditions and identify high-risk locations. We have to schedule comprehensive grading and reshaping activity once the moisture levels and conditions allow. We have to optimize the use of our granular material. That way we minimize the waste during the saturated conditions. And just something to note, the township does experience an increase in service requests and complaints regarding gravel road conditions during that spring thaw. And it's important to recognize that the operational effectiveness is directly influenced by the pavement moisture conditions. Permanent and more effective repairs can only be completed once the conditions allow for proper grading and compaction. But as I mentioned earlier, we try to address the severe issues by bringing in gravel just to make the roads drivable. Now, minimum maintenance standards. Under Ontario Regulation 239/02, minimum maintenance standards, municipalities have the ability to declare a significant weather event. A significant weather event, whenever you declare that, it's basically a formal notification that the current or forecasted weather conditions are expected to impact our roadway maintenance standards. So it's a notification that the road authority is temporarily unable to meet the prescribed maintenance timelines due to the severe weather conditions. So this declaration is not a reduction of standard of care, but rather just acknowledges that we have severity, it just acknowledges the severity of the weather conditions. It provides transparency to the public and allows road authorities to continue on with their operations without being deemed non-compliant during extreme conditions. So the Township of West Lincoln, we did not declare a significant weather event during the 2025-2026 winter season. Some road authorities have throughout Ontario. We have not. We have declared it at least once in the past 2 or 3 years. So that's just a little bit of a closed notes on minimum maintenance standards and what a significant weather event is. We are making a recommendation around declaring a significant weather event. So in order to strengthen the administrative clarity and ensure good governance practices, administration is recommending to council to amend the Director of Infrastructure Delegated Authority bylaw to include the authority to declare and to and terminate a significant weather event in accordance with the minimum maintenance standards. Providing this delegated authority will ensure clear and documented authority for operational decision-making, support timely and consistent declarations, align with governance framework with best practices, and it can also reduce potential legal uncertainty around providing minimum maintenance standards. The last topic is financial summary of everything that's being presented to you tonight. The financial impact of winter operations varies annually. It's based on weather severity, frequency of events, and material usage. To date, the 2026 operations budget related to the winter control stands at around 85% usage of its total budget amount. We believe the remaining budget will be sufficient for any future winter control that takes place this year, which is basically the month of December. The next bullet, implementing the snow fence program, will have a future cost. Administration will report back with a budget allowance as part of the 2027 budget process to explain that cost for council's consideration. And the rest of the administrative improvements that I talked about related to staffing, material application, and the proposed amendment to the delegated authority bylaw has basically no financial impact to the corporation. So the recommendations in front of you this evening is basically to receive the report, which is entitled Winter Operations Summary Report. There's a recommendation for staff to develop a snow fence program for consideration in the 2027 budget. And there's also a recommendation to amend the delegated authority bylaw to authorize the Director of Infrastructure to declare and terminate significant weather events. So thanks for listening to the presentation. And I have my wingman with me, Trey Benish, our Manager of Operations, to answer any questions that council and committee members may have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Director. So I have Councillor Trombetta, then Councillor Chichuk, then Councillor Rayner, and then Councillor Maychek, then Councillor Broderick. We're going to go in that exact order. All right, Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for this presentation, guys. Guys, and what you want? Is there a problem over there? Or sorry, I heard something. Oh. Guys and gals, if that's what I'm supposed to say. That's better. But anyways, thank you. Don't want anything to ruin the presentation, but anyways, thank you very much for the presentation. It's a lot. We don't really get this often, especially on the road winter maintenance. I haven't seen one. I don't know. I know Mike, you've been here quite a while, but I haven't seen one. We get updates, but actual presentation is actually to see some costs and what the usage is, to actually see how much centimeters of snow, how it's kind of changed for year to year. And as obviously we're getting more significant snowstorms, it's getting more affected. I do, and I know because I did have a lot of conversation with both of you over the winter. The winter operations is a lot different in Ward 1 than it is in Ward 2 and that it is in Ward 3. Like, we do get the prevailing southwest winds in Ward 1, and I know I've called and, the roads are clean around mud and, let's say, mud and mountain by the Agricultural Society. It's clear, and we can't get through the drifts in Ward 1, and, we're calling out, and the guys are doing really well. I have to admit, there's no doubt that the guys do very well on the roads and significant storm events. The issue that sometimes we do have, especially in the rural wards, is the drifting. The drifting is the dangerous part that we're experiencing. I'm happy to see that we're, going back to the snow fence. I know we used to have it before. I don't know what roads or how you're going to determine, so maybe through you, Mr. Chair, to Trey or Mike, what roads are going to be determined for, what areas do you know that are significant? Like, I know myself and Councillor Rayner can know the areas of Ward 1, and I'm quite sure Councillor Broderick and Councillor Chichuk know Ward 2 really well, what areas, and the same goes for Maychuk and Riley, and I'm quite sure the mayor knows a bunch of them as well, so don't want to leave her out.
So if I may, so I don't think we're looking to get into the nitty-gritty details, but maybe are you asking how they're going to determine?
Well, that's where I'm trying to get to. So how, I don't need specifics. Obviously,
okay, just want to make sure I understand
the specifics.
No, but just the way how you phrase it was a little unclear.
So is it from just the call-outs that you're getting? The amount of cars that go in the ditch in a specific area, how do we know what are the specific areas that you're going to tackle for that snow fence? Instead of it being lopsided per ward, that's what I kind of want, through you, Mr. Chair, to the director.
Okay, through the chair, I'll start with a high-level answer, and I don't know if Trey would like to add on to it. But yeah, we're definitely having those types of conversations. I think it's a combination of, we do have some historic records of where we used to have snow fence, so it's a combination of that. It'll be a combination of call-outs, some, how many times have we had to redeploy to deal with drifting snow? And it'll also be a combination of experience. We do have a lot of staff that have been around for decades, so they're very knowledgeable on what road sections or what rural areas experience wind drifts, and we could even tie it to which direction the wind is coming. I think we get into those types of details. And I guess any accident complaints or anything like that we have experienced through winter months, we have records of that, and I guess we'll review all of that. And then we'll come up with a plan. And I can't think of anything further unless Trey has something. Okay.
Also, through Mr. Chair, to Mr. Paul, like, we haven't done the program in a while. Like, do we still need to buy more snow fence now? Because snow fence does sit, it does deteriorate over time, right? So.
Yeah, through the chair, the councillor, yes, we will have to buy some more snow fence, so that'll be included in the 2027 budget process for consideration.
Okay, I might have some more further questions. I'll turn it over to the colleagues around the table. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you, guys.
So before I go to Councillor Chichek, just because the question was asked around the snow fence, and it's not going to get addressed to the 2027 budget, what will you bring to council shortly after the new term of council, some kind of recommendation so you can get ahead of the next winter, potential winter hazards, or are you going to wait till the budget process fully is completed before you act on it?
Through the chair, that's a great question. I think it's something that administration will review and see how we want to present that.
Okay, because I'm just thinking if you're waiting 2027 to deliberate on that, and you're not seeing it until 2028. So, all right, I have Councillor Chichek, then Councillor Rayner, and then I go to the other side.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I understand that there's a lot of gravel roads, and we have a farm on one, and I've spent many a day journeying there over the past 4 or 5 months and feel the washboards and the potholes. But I have to say congratulations to all of the staff. It has been, I have encountered the graders going down the roads and trying to prevent any of the washboarding or any of the potholes. It's inevitable, but I think this year has been a remarkable improvement to what we've had, given even the kind of weather we've had to experience with the wind and the washout and the continuous washout and then the snow drifting across. So I've gotten a few calls, but not nearly as many. So thank you very much for that. But my second comment is about and this, remember what day it is. A long time ago in a land far, far away, which happens to be West Lincoln, a staff person said to us that it was silly to have trees along rural roads. At the time, residents were getting kind of concerned about the tree loss, and so that shows you how long ago it was. It was due to the onset of wind turbines. And some of the rural areas did lose a lot of trees, and there was money put aside and given back to us for trees. And the idea was, well, why would you want to put a tree on a rural road? Well, it does help on snowstorms. And so I'm not suggesting a tree that we can afford to have trees because of snow, and they'd be a long time growing before the fences. But the point I wanted to get to was that if there is a green West Lincoln, and there are people who are interested in doing some of the things about providing tree breaks, the safest places along my route home from West Lincoln Town Hall to my house is where the tree cover has created a bit of a barrier. And my comment would be that we should be encouraging people to reinstate trees close to the road, not so close, and not underneath power lines, I know, but the trees that exist today that I thank every time I drive home are because they've been there for a number of years and can offer some shelter, which will only enhance your snow fencing opportunities. I don't know how you would feel about that, but certainly something I'd be encouraging with some of our people. The other thing is that the 2 to 3 weeks of that thaw that you mentioned earlier, that this year, with all of the rain and the freezing and all the rest, it was probably closer to 5 to 6. So I'm surprised that you are within budget. And again, I want to mention the fact that this year's roads were very well kept, given the drifting, the blowing, and the snow, etc. So I will, I think the motions have already been put, haven't they?
We have the mover and seconder, yeah, it's
so,
before us.
I look forward to hearing more as we proceed forward with 2026 into 2027.
Right, thank you, Councillor.
Those are my comments, Madam Mayor.
All right, Councillor Rayner, then Councillor Maychak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, can you go back to your first slide where you had the rain, the snow? And if it's the cow sills, it's the rain, the snow, the park, and everything. But that was a good record from the 60s. Now, you've given part of that in imperial and part of that in metric. Is there any way you can do them like side by side for us old guys that can kind of relate more to it?
Through the chair, I'll consider that for future presentations.
Because your salt usage, you had it
Is in tons,
which is
yeah.
imperial, and the other ones you had in metric. So if we could go with both side by side, would really be a help if you don't mind.
Sure, we could consider that for future presentations.
It's just a little thing, but it's easier to understand because I'm trying to divide 25 into these numbers, thinking, okay, let's make it easy. The salt, you said we almost ran out, or we did run out?
I'll start, through the chair, I'll start again, but I'll let Trey share the details because my understanding is the procurement of salt was done jointly with all the area municipalities in the Niagara region, and it was a multi-year contract. And near the end, I can't remember what month it was, probably March. Around March is when the supplier for the contract advised the procurement lead, being Niagara region, that they couldn't get any more salt. So all 12 municipalities got together and kind of had a relook at where everyone was, and we were able to reallocate salt to municipalities that needed it more than, because, you know, it was all based on estimated tenders. So there were some municipalities that already overran their estimate and no salt was being provided to them. So then other municipalities had a higher estimate. So we all got together and kind of reallocated everyone's salt usage to make sure that all municipalities had enough salt to cover all the road authorities throughout the Niagara region. So we weren't promised what was in the originally procured. We were told in March, this is all we can get, and then all the municipalities came together to make it work.
The reason I asked that, Mr. Chair, is because I watch Channel 11 News every night, and they had announced, I think it was in March, that Niagara Falls had run out of salt. And I thought, that was kind of strange, because I'm thinking, how can you, when you wake up, you went to work in the morning and you found the shed empty? Like, I had a little difficulty understanding how you could get to that point. And then what about stocking up? You because of this procurement program, you cannot stock up like late summer, early fall, and have like 10 or 20% more than you normally need in case it's one of those winters that we didn't predict? And that, therefore, you've got yourself a little safety factor?
Through the chair, I'm going to have to ask Trey to answer that question because I don't know what the terms and conditions are in the contract, but hopefully he could provide some insight.
I have no idea. Is it on? Hello?
Oh, yeah, we hear you.
Hi, good evening. My first time, a little nervous. Sorry about that. Through the chair to Councilor Rayner. Yeah, Mike, Director DePaula spoke to it. So this is the third year of a joint contract that we had with all the 12 municipalities for salt and sand. So when we gave our estimated quantities 3 years ago, and as you can see by the metrics that we have from that year, 2023, you know, our winters weren't as severe then. So when we gave our estimated tonnages for salt and sand that year, they were obviously a little bit low as we've ramped up. The winters have gotten worse the last 2 years. So we had estimated 1,200 ton for this winter season. So we were within our estimation for this year. We are allowed to go over 10% of our estimations every year. Each municipality is allowed to go over 10%. But as a group, we have one bulk amount that we all kind of pull from. It's all sitting on a dock, and we all just kind of use it from the same pile. And as Councilor Director DePaula mentioned, a few of the municipalities went way over their 10% allocation. So around late February, early March, we got a call from our supplier saying, we're holding off on any more deliveries until we figure something out. All of the municipalities got together and discussed who could give up some of theirs that hadn't used it yet for the season, and we kind of figured out who needed it the most, and we made it work. We still stayed within our estimated quantities as a group, but it took a little bit of working together to make that work.
Through the chair to Trey, did they use a lot of extra salt because they didn't properly monitor how much they were using and felt there was an endless supply, or was it because their unique weather situations justified the additional that they never in the world figured would happen?
Through the chair to Councilor Rayner. I can't speak to why they went over. Just from our experience here, it was probably an underestimation of what they would need for the season. We don't use a lot compared to the other municipalities as far as tonnages. Like if you look at the other municipalities, they're 4 or 5 times larger than what we take. So it's a little bit easier for us to estimate how much we use, considering we only use it within Smithville. So that's probably what happened, is they didn't expect to be using as much as they thought they would, especially 3 years ago when they gave their initial quantities.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chair, through to the director. Significant weather events, when you trigger that, what happens? Is there roads closed? Is there bells and whistles go off somewhere? By declaring that, how does the public know that it's declared, and what should the public expect, and where would it occur, and how would they be notified that it occurred?
Yeah. Through the chair, so declaring a significant weather event basically is a transparent way to let the community know that we're going to have trouble clearing the roadway. And minimum maintenance standards lays out how much time you should respond to a certain road whenever there's X amount of accumulation of snow on the road, and depending on the class of road will dictate how much time you have to clear that road. So when you declare a significant weather event, you're basically letting the general public know that the road authority needs more time to meet those standards. So instead of clearing it in a 6-hour period, we might need 10 hours to clear that snow. We would declare it by putting it out on social media, a media release, and it also gives us the ability to keep our staff working beyond the set hours that they're allowed to under the Health and Safety Act or the Employment Standards Act. So it also gives us an opportunity to work beyond your standard hours. So in addition to declaring a significant weather event, we also have to declare that that significant weather event is terminated so that we're back to meeting our minimum maintenance standards.
Sure, so you can legally keep a truck driver driving longer than the minimum hours so long as there's a declaration, is that correct?
I'll let Trey answer that.
Through the chair to Councilor Rayner. Yeah, so legally, a truck driver or truck driver is only allowed to drive 13 hours per day, operate 13 hours within a 24-hour period. But with the significant weather event declaration, they're allowed to drive up to 16 hours. So we can keep them 3 hours extra to help with the roads.
So again, I just want to make sure you realize, so there is a difference between what's being proposed versus an EOC, right? And so again, these are also in unique situations, but this is kind of like that step before, as they're still able to manage it. This is not an emergency. This is not anyone needs to panic. This is more just information for the public to have and be aware of. So if they can make alternative plans to stay off the road, that's highly recommended. And then also give staff the ability to offer more service for a little bit longer and just have those contingencies that would otherwise require probably some kind of directive from council to fund and offset.
I only have one more question, and this one has been bugging me for a while. Maybe you guys can help me on this. On the TV, radio, they're advertised that this is an undercoating company. They're saying salt is more aggressive today than it ever was before, and you need to get your car undercoated. Can you please tell me, is sodium chloride more toxic, more corrosive today to use on the roads than the salt that you guys purchased 10 years
So-
ago to use on the road? Is it more aggressive? That's the word they use. The salt today is more aggressive.
All right.
Is
So,
that
Councillor,
possible?
So-
Can you determine when you purchase salt what grade you get, that one would melt faster than the other because it's got more chloride in it or more sodium in it, whatever? Is that a parameter?
So first of all, Councillor, I appreciate the question, and I understand where you're coming from. I also want to recommend or highlight the fact that staff is, to the best of my knowledge, are not scientists, and they're not the ones creating the thing there. So anything they provide, any kind of explanation or understanding they share, you certainly couldn't.
No, I don't. What I mean is,
look at it as
is
something
the
you
salt
take-
you're using today melts the snow faster, which means it is more corrosive, which is even more aggressive than it was.
So I
today.
think
Is
a
that
fair,
true?
so I
That's all
think
I
a
want to
fair
know.
question would be is that what you mentioned there briefly, just as far as what is your understanding to the level of the effectiveness of the salt, and is it actually working better than it did years before, and are there any known risks?
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Rayner, the salt that we use, to my knowledge, has not changed. It's the same that it's been forever. There are other forms of salt that are treated salt, so they get treated with like a salt brine before they get delivered, which are meant to work more efficiently in lower temperature because salt only works to a certain temperature and then it doesn't function as well. So I know the region has used that salt in years past. I'm not sure if they used it this winter season, but it's actually blue in color. So if you ever see any blue salt, that's what the region uses, and it's higher cost. It is more effective. I don't know that it's more corrosive or abrasive. I believe that might just be a marketing strategy for that company, but as far as what we use, it has not changed from my knowledge.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just jumped in. Okay, Councillor Maychak. then Councillor
Through the
Broderick.
chair, first of all, I haven't always lived in West Lincoln. Just want to commend you guys. I think it's like 6, 7 in the morning. I hear the trucks go by, and soon thereafter, the majority of the roads, at least in Ward 3, are done. I'm going to tail off the councillor's question, and I don't think it's cost effective, but it's a question I've been asked by residents. They see me as the pet-friendly councillor, and they want to know, is there an alternative to the salt that maybe the township can consider in the future that might be better for the dog's paws, not as corrosive to the road, but yet still reasonably cost-effective? And has the township ever looked at those alternatives? And again, I'm asking because they're asking me, and I don't really have a well-educated answer to that question. And then I have a second very quick question.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the question. Through the chair to Councilor Maychak. We are looking at other options. I know we have received some complaints from residents about the sidewalks, them walking their dogs on the sidewalks after we've salted them. As of right now, we don't have a great solution for that, unfortunately, and we do have to keep, under the minimum maintenance standards, we have to keep those sidewalks as traversable as possible and safe for pedestrians. So unfortunately, right now, we're just trying to do a better job at limiting our salt use, like just putting a minimum amount on there so it's not like you're walking through a beach down the sidewalk. So that's our goal for now.
And I'm sorry, my other question is this: under the significant weather alert, are we also sending a message to stay off the roads? And if we are, and I think this is a question maybe for CAO, is it tied to canceling the program?
Through the chair to Councillor, as part of our messaging when we do declare a significant weather event, we do put out general advisory, to stay home or only drive if it's necessary. We do have an internal process on throughout the administration team on closures, and we have a procedure for that programming. So yeah, whenever we would declare a significant weather event, if we can talk to the other departments and all align what the closures would be, whether it's a facility closure or a cancellation of programs, we would message all that at the same time.
You got a follow-up?
I only ask that because I've known of situations where residents been told stay off the roads, it's not safe, but they have a hockey game. So they go to the hockey game and they get injured, accident, stuck in a ditch, and then they come back and say, well, we were told by the township minor hockey was still on, it's not an emergency, but there's an expectation you show up for your kid's game. So I just want to make sure from a policy perspective, we're somewhat consistent, because otherwise I think we're a little liable if we're saying stay off the road and they go on the road for programming and God forbid something terrible happens.
Yep, appreciate that. You going to respond to that? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So we have recently adopted procedures around winter closures in the event of those, but so when we do declare one of these events, it doesn't necessarily mean that there will be programming cancellations, but it's one of the factors that we take into consideration in the morning when we're assessing it.
All right, and Councillor Broderick.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you very much for the great report. Lots of good metrics there and information. Certainly appreciate some communication from both of you over the winter months, especially when we were also getting calls and good information that we could share with residents. One in particular, the email about the spring thaw. That's when I received a lot of phone calls where some of our rural roads were in not the best shape, that's for sure. And just wondered if there's a possibility that more of a brief description of what you gave to us could go out to the community and as a whole, so that they also understand kind of what's going on during those few weeks, so that maybe they would understand and not have to be concerned that we're ignoring them, but doing it intentionally.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Broderick, I think that's a great idea. It's the brief description of our challenges in this report and presentation, but I do think we should undertake some kind of educational campaign during the spring thaw, or just to prepare residents on what our activities are and what to expect. But yeah, we should definitely undertake some kind of educational campaign on that topic. I would agree
Yeah,
with
like
that.
I said, I think it feels sometimes like ignoring versus not as intentional as it is. And I think just a quick, social media post would certainly, educate people so that they understand what's really happening behind the scenes. So if I can also have an additional.
Yes, of course.
The blowing snow, certainly I don't have the great mass amount of experience that you gentlemen have, other than just commuting through the blowing snow for about 35 years through rural West Lincoln. I definitely agree with Councillor Chichuk around the tree planting, because certainly you see those areas with those natural snow fences, so to speak, has certainly the areas where you're free and clear from those drifts. Just wondering about possibilities of reaching out to our agricultural community to see if there's any way that we could encourage them to maybe, keep a little bit of a brush on the sides to help with that. But also wondered about other road design possibilities. I don't know anything about that, but I do see that sometimes with the bigger ditches, there's more of a natural kind of, and maybe I'm just imagining this, but perhaps you could, through you, Chair, expand on possible also alternatives that could be thought about in the future to when we're redesigning roads, or that can have that blowing snow piece kind of part of that.
Yeah, through the chair, we don't normally in a rural roads we kind of just do surface rehab on these rural roads. But if there ever is an opportunity or a desire to reconstruct a rural road, was something we could definitely consider. I haven't really thought about that. I'm not aware of any best practices for something like that, but it's something we could definitely consider. And even the comment about the trees or ditches, we'll have to look at that as well, because I think snow fencing is only effective like where you place the snow fence, and I think it's a matter of it's probably the same principles with respect to where trees are planted, and even redesigning a road. Sometimes you'd have to put some treatment onto private property to make it really effective. But yeah, there's other options too. I know some rural municipalities talk to farmers to leave some of their crop up, especially corn, a couple rows of corn. It's something we discussed. We'll look at that as well, and maybe there's an educational campaign on that too. But I think just corn farmers and where our drifting snow problems are, if they align, there's an opportunity, but
Sure.
I'm not sure if they always align. But that's another option. Instead of redesigning a road, we speak to the agricultural community, and depending what their crop is, work with them to keep it planted.
Yeah.
Throughout or don't harvest it, I should say, and keep it. And keep it
Or
throughout
maybe keep a stubble of certain things,
Right,
so
yeah.
they don't till right down. I mean, I'm not a farmer either, but, and I
Yeah.
don't know if that's something that's a negative for them, but if it's a possibility, it certainly may lend itself to a natural, cost-effective way to control the blowing snow.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. All right, so thank you. Councillor, I'll go to Mayor Ganan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So some of my comments are much the same as everyone else. I was just going to talk about the fact that I had a resident ask if snow fencing was ever going to be in our future again, because this particular resident has missed that with the winds coming from the west. I think as I listened to the metrics that you were presenting, you were talking about snowfall and rainfall, and all of those things, I think, are similar enough. But we feel, I think, and most residents do, that it's the winds that have changed drastically. So they're more consistent. We have more windy days than ever, and the winds are much stronger than they used to be. So I think many of the things that we've talked about and that people have suggested back and forth as I was waiting for my turn, I noticed on 20 Road that when we were doing ditching there, we actually cut back some of that road quite consistently, the hedges that were along. And I think that was to ensure that we were doing the ditching properly. But maybe that's something that we can manage at the same time as asking farmers to maintain a row of crops. I think it's not going to be one set suggestion, but the piece about educating the public might be worth something on its own, where we just start early in the fall and talk about all those kinds of things, all the various things that we're talking about, and that we're all being mindful of that, recognizing that the snowfall is increasing and the winds are most definitely increasing. It might be something that we really need to step up our act and try to make sure that we are making an actual on-purpose design, not just wait till something happens again, but along with that can be the recommendation that we are looking at additional snow fencing, but in the meantime, there might be more that can be done. So anyway, thank you, that's all.
Okay, any other members of council? Not seeing any. I'll just mention two brief things. I kind of backpacking Councilor Bradwick a little bit. I think the communication piece is critical. I wouldn't rely, as much as I'm, consider myself the social media guy, I wouldn't rely so much just on social media. I would do our best in terms of trying to get information out, whether it's through utility bills or the tax bills or anything. Anytime we can engage in the community. And I guess my question to you, Director, I don't know if it's something doesn't necessarily need to be prioritized today, but maybe considered down the road is maybe we could do some kind of public consultation process. It doesn't necessarily have to be at a location. Maybe it's something done through the mail or information that can send them to a website. But I think there's a lot of value being missed from hearing from especially some of our rural and agricultural community that experience this a little bit more aggressively than say our urban community. And it'd be nice to kind of include everyone. But I think if we can also make an active effort to reach out to them in some capacity just to see what ideas maybe they have, and even if it's something more that a program we come forward in the future that encourages more tree growth, more whatever it is, if fencing is the way to go, fencing's the way to go, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people had some creative ideas or some experiences to share, and I think we'd be missing an opportunity not to explore those. So anyways, that being the case, I'm going to go to thank you very much again for your presentation. And Trey, thank you very much for joining us this evening and contributing as well. I'm going to go to the clerk to call the question, or to bring the question up, sorry. I guess I'm calling the question. All right, and that carries unanimously. So that moves us to our next item of staff reports. It's item IC 13-26. It's a recommendation report I-09-2026 titled South Grimsby Road 5 Reconstruction and Spring Creek Road Extension Engineering Services RFP Award, OPR 2025-05, dated May 4th, 2026, be received. and that council award the RFP submissions to GEI Consultants Canada for the detailed design engineering services in the amount of $161,913, excluding HST, and that the total project expenditure of $250,000 be approved for this project, and that a bylaw be adopted to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement with GEI Consulting Canada for the engineering services. So at this point, do I have a mover and seconder? Mayor Ganand, Councillor Broderick. Floor is open for questions or comments. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to the director. This project is going to cost $250,000, $250,000, correct?
Through the chair, the total project cost for the design component of this project is going to be $250,000. $161,000 of that is to retain the consultant for their design services. And then later on in the report, we're carrying an allowance of $60,000 to hire a geotechnical consultant, which is part of the design process. And that also, it's a design process to make sure the road is designed properly, but also to deal with the excess soil regulations. So that assignment of $60,000, which is what we're estimating, will be awarded at a later date through a competitive RFP process to retain a geotechnical firm. And then we're carrying a 10% contingency, and that's how we come up with the $250,000.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I assume it said the total project expenditure. So the consultants and everything and doing the road is going to be $250,000?
Through the chair, we should probably do a better job clarifying that in future reports, but it's just for the detailed design phase of the project.
That makes sense to me, but it said total project expenditure, and that's what threw me the curve.
Yep.
So it's a lot more than that, obviously. What is the number, through the chair to the director there? What do you anticipate or budgeted the final number to
Okay,
be?
through the chair, I don't have the budget in front of me, but the design is around $250,000. Once we get through the detailed design, we'll have better estimates for the construction, but I think we have a budget item for South Grimsby Road 5 and a budget item for Spring Creek Road in the 10-year budget for approximately, I would say in the range of around $4 to $6 million for those two roads. And then there's also there's also contract administration and inspection services that are typically it'll be in the range of around $400,000, but those will be awarded later.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing any members of council committee here, all right, I'll go to the clerk to bring up the question. Oh, Councilor Rayner, did he vote? Okay, perfect. All right, that carries unanimously as well. That moves us to other business. Any other items of other business? Not seeing any. New business? Not seeing any. We have no confidential matters. As a result, we have no disclosure of confidential matters. And that brings us to the end of our night. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:42 p.m. May the 4th be with you.